Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, as you may know, at the end of each month I typically do a short video recapping the legal stories for the month. But given that we've just turned the calendar to a new year, here's all I want to say. 2022 started with Donald Trump being held accountable for exactly 0 of his crimes, and 2022 ended with Donald Trump being held accountable for exactly 0 of his crimes. Let's hope that in 2023, Special Counsel Jack Smith has some accountability in store. Because justice matters. Friends, here is a short video recapping the legal stories for the month that was December 2022. So friends, Donald Trump had a really bad week today. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, yesterday, a federal judge ordered Trump's top White House lawyers to tell all to the grand jury. And today, it looks like they did precisely that. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So the month of November started with the Supreme Court telling Lindsey Graham in substance, enough with the appeals. Get your butt in that Georgia State grand jury and testify about Donald Trump's election crimes. And November ended with a sad batch of so-called oath keepers being convicted of seditious conspiracy for trying to violently stop the certification of Joe Biden's election win. So friends, we are making progress. Here's a short recap of the legal stories for the month that was November 2022. So friends, with Donald Trump's latest post about the Constitution, I think he has pretty much sealed the deal. You'll probably recall that the last book written about Donald Trump was titled The Art of the Deal. You know, maybe a good title for the next book about Donald Trump would be The Art of the Indictment. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, as you probably know, the Trump Organization, Donald Trump's namesake, is on trial in New York, being criminally prosecuted for a whole bunch of felony crimes, including running a 15-year-long criminal scheme to defrauding the taxpayers of New York. And the prosecutors gave their closing arguments on Friday. Did you hear what the prosecutors told the jury about what Donald Trump himself did? Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, I'm going to say something that I don't feel like we get to say often enough. Today was a really good day for the rule of law. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, yesterday was a good day for the rule of law. But today, we've got to call it the way we see it. Today was a little less good. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, you may have missed this one, but Rudy Giuliani is in a hearing right now to see whether he should be disbarred, prohibited from ever practicing law in Washington, D.C. again. And wait until you hear what the prosecutor, so to speak, the attorney representing the Bar Council, just said about Rudy Giuliani. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, today, the Chief Judge of Federal District Court in Washington, D.C., Judge Beryl Howell, refused to hold Donald Trump and his team in contempt of court. And here's the thing, friends. Judge Howell was right. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, you probably heard that yesterday, DOJ lawyers, federal prosecutors, went into the courtroom of Chief Judge Beryl Howell, Federal District Court in Washington, D.C. And they asked Judge Howell to hold Donald Trump and his team in contempt for either not turning over all of the documents that Donald Trump stole from the federal government, or not certifying that they had turned everything over. How is it that the Department of Justice has found itself in this investigative mess? Well, we're going to break everything down to their basics and try to answer that question. Because justice matters. So friends, the January 6th committee's work is winding down. The committee is working on its final report, and we know there will be tons of information in there about the evidence their investigation uncovered. But there's still the open question of whether the committee will make formal criminal referrals to the Department of Justice. And if they do, who will they refer? Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, as frustrated as we get with a lack of accountability for the crimes of Donald Trump, we have to acknowledge when there is investigative progress. So let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, did you see the new reporting about the text messages between former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and 34 Republican members of Congress on and around January 6th? It's like Meadows was serving as a clearinghouse for treasonous texts. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, we hear it over and over again. No one is above the law. Oh no? Have you met Mark Meadows? Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, today, Rudy Giuliani is one giant step closer to being disbarred. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, the January 6th committee is about to refer Donald Trump to the Department of Justice for prosecution on 3 charges. And though the J6 committee's criminal referral is only a recommendation, those 3 charges will stick. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, the holiday season is here, and I'd like to take a minute to wish you all a very happy Criminal Referral Eve. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, today was a good day for our democracy, because today a bipartisan committee of Congress referred a former president of the United States to the Department of Justice for a criminal prosecution. A prosecution for crimes that, in a very real sense, were designed to bring an end to our democracy. So yes, today was a good day. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, we have talked more about what the J6 committee will do by way of criminal referrals of Donald Trump, and less about what the J6 committee will do about their fellow members of Congress who defied subpoenas in their determination to hide, to cover up the crimes of Donald Trump. So let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, as you undoubtedly know by now, the January 6th committee formally referred Donald Trump to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution for the insurrection. And in the past 24 hours, there has been a little bit of criticism about the J6 committee's decision to make that formal recommendation to the Department of Justice. Is that criticism well-founded? Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Witness tampering. Donald Trump's White House ethics lawyer reportedly tampered with a witness who was to give incriminating testimony about Donald Trump to the January 6th committee. And now the J6 committee has criminally referred Donald Trump for prosecution for witness tampering, specifically for conspiracy to make a false statement. And friends, this significantly ups the prosecution ante. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, today we learned some of the staggering details about how one of Donald Trump's nefarious White House lawyers tampered with witness Cassidy Hutchinson. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, what's the main takeaway from the 800-plus page report that was just issued by the January 6th committee about the insurrection? Simple. Trump must be prosecuted. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, we know that Donald Trump thinks he's running for president again, but he's got a problem. He's got a constitutional problem. It's called the 14th Amendment. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, I'm afraid I finally have to turn to Donald Trump's tax returns. Specifically, there's a picture emerging, and it's a picture that looks like, at best, some really ugly favoritism and cronyism at the IRS, and at worst, some deep governmental abuses. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, today, a short how-to video. How to deal with a politician who is an election denier. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, other than maybe Donald Trump, is there anyone who has committed more crimes or a wider variety of crimes than Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows? Let's talk about that, because justice matters. So friends, let's take on a despicable abuse of trust by a Republican politician of the American voters. And then let's talk about what the Republican Party is likely to do about it, because justice matters. So friends, with the release of some of these January 6th committee transcripts, guess what's back in the news? Donald Trump and Jared Kushner's criminal responsibility for avoidable COVID deaths. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Happy New Year, everybody. So can we do a short video taking on the topic of hope and optimism? Because frankly, finding reasons to be hopeful and optimistic, like justice, matters.
It's for sure. Justice matters. Justice matters. Justice matters.